one. And I think we're live there. This is Curt and the other guy coming to you on a Thursday night. It's a little bit. Hey, is that you, other guy?
I'm here.
Awesome. I wanted to see if I could show my shirt. Oh, yeah, there it is. See I got me a new shirt, Libertarian right there. I just wanted to show everybody that real quick. It's probably better than seeing my face anyway. So hey, I just want to let everybody know what we're going to be doing tonight. And you just jump in anytime you want to there, Todd. We're happy to have you.
Will do.
So the purpose of Curt and the other guy, I like to remind people of the purpose. It keeps you and me on task and on point and such things. But number one, we want to encourage civil discourse because I think both of us agree that the rhetoric and the speech level and the animosity and maybe hatred especially, well, just not just politics, but when someone disagrees with you or has a different viewpoint, that's gotten out of control. What do you think about that, Todd?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like our country is more and more divided every day. And so I agree with you 100%.
I think Abraham Lincoln said it, a nation divided against itself cannot fall. And maybe Jesus said something like that too, if I remember right. Pretty close.
Yeah, definitely. House divided.
Exactly, house divided. So we want to encourage civil discourse. We also, number two, want to encourage people to get involved in politics, in their communities, in taking action and standing up for what they believe is right. Okay? So encourage civil discourse, number one. Number two, encourage people to get involved in the process. And number three, have fun while you do number one and number two. And especially while you do number two.
We need to get that advertisement.
I think if we could hit 1,000 views, maybe Squatty Potty, maybe just maybe they would say, hey, look, we'll pay you guys to talk. I'd sit on a Squatty Potty. I wouldn't show everybody, but I'd sit on one just to,
Oh, I don't need that visual.
So we kind of decided we were going to divide this up into 3 segments and see how that kind of goes here. We're not going to go over an hour. Approximately 20 minutes or so per segment. And we're going to start with in the news segment. Is that okay with you, Todd?
Sounds good.
All right. So I'm going to jump right in here and wade right into, to me, what's a really hot issue at this point. And let me preface it. Well, let me tell you what we're going to talk about first.
Okay.
And is the verdict in the Philando Castile case. You familiar with that, Todd?
Yes, familiar, yes.
Okay. And what a lot of people may not know is there was a similar case, probably not quite as clear-cut maybe on the innocence of the person who was shot, but in Milwaukee, about the same time a year ago, a man, I believe his name was Seville Smith, was shot by Dominique, and I may have gotten that. I may have gotten that backwards. Dominique Brown. In the case in Milwaukee, it was black officer, black victim, or black. I don't know if he's a victim. Not quite as clear cut, but he was definitely a victim of shooting. Okay.
Okay.
In the Philando Castile case, white officer, black victim. I'm going to use the word victim there. Okay. I think we need to get away from everything being a racial issue. Any thoughts there as I jump right in?
Yeah, I think I saw an interesting article, and it was talking about, I think you maybe had even shared it, the National Review had pointed out that the NRA had originally sort of brought up that point. That they were gonna wait till the outcome to really voice their opinion, and then they never really voiced their opinion, which I think is because they're nervous to upset their their fan base. But that was sort of their argument, is it wasn't, we need to take the race out of the card, but still there was, the officer, I've said before that while officers, they do have a difficult job.
Absolutely.
They do need to be in control of themselves. We're not talking about the Wild West. We're not talking about a guy running around on a horse with a 6-shooter on his side. We're talking about somebody who's trained. But I actually have a different point of view on this. I think we're going to see more of this, and here's why. I think we're going to see more police officers making these kind of mistakes. Yeah. Because I actually had a talk with some people about this, and because we're putting down officers and we're making their life, I think, miserable to an extent, and maybe that's a strong word to use, but I'm going to use it. I think we're going to see less good officers getting into the field. We're going to have these guys retiring early. They're going to find, let's be honest, they're not making very much money doing what they're doing. So they're going to leave and they're going to go make money in other fields where they're going to be successful. And so we're going to lose the good officers. And so what I feel like we're going to see more and more of, and I don't want to make anybody upset by saying this, but I just feel that we're going to see more people getting into it that they're not in it for the right reason.
Your point is the caliber of officer may drop. Yes. Okay.
Why would I want to put my life on the line for you when you completely hate me and you don't want me there at all? So
right. No, and I think there's probably a lot of nuance, a lot of points that need to be made here. I think in our last segment, we're going to talk about oversimplifying things.
Yeah.
And you can't just say, for instance, I'm just going to say this. My opinion is that most law enforcement officers are in it for the right reasons.
I would agree.
That'd be my opinion. What do you think there?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I'm not saying that all the officers out there are lazy or they're in it for the wrong reason. But I do think we're going to see a lot of the good ones are going to say, forget this. And as the years go along, if we don't turn the ship around, I think we're heading in it's almost like the Vietnam War. If guys are coming home getting spit on, why would they go out there to protect and serve?
So I think, that's a great point. And I guess the question would be, what are some reasons people are not respecting police officers? So if you look at the Philando Castile video, and I had never seen the dash cam video until a couple of days ago. I only saw his girlfriend's Facebook live feed.
Okay. And I can, just let me give you some warning. I've watched neither video. I've seen clips of it from the news, but I've never watched fully either video.
I'm going to tell you right now, they're both disturbing as all get out.
Yeah, I could imagine.
If that doesn't bother you on a human level, I pity you, okay? Because a man died.
Yeah.
But in that particular case, at first I was very careful of reserving judgment, as the NRA said.
Okay.
Because all we saw was what his girlfriend posted. And obviously, you'd think she would be on his side.
Yes, I mean, for sure. And rightfully be upset. Let's not try to attack her. I mean,
put yourself in that spot.
Yeah.
You've got your little child in the back seat. Your boyfriend just died in front of your eyes. And the situation is he was pulled over it was either a missing taillight or brake light. It was a minor traffic infraction, okay?
Okay.
I watched the police. There were two police officers. I watched one of them walk up, the one that shot him, and literally said, hey, he told him what was wrong, what he needed. It seemed calm. He then said, I need, license and registration. He got that paperwork out of his glove box or whatever. I believe he thought he also needed to get his driver's license out. Okay. So now Philando Castile does what he's supposed to do, and he says, I need to inform you that I have a concealed carry permit and I have a firearm on me.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you say that to somebody, you're not intending to use that firearm, especially if you say it to a police officer. You're saying that to diffuse the situation. I mean, there's no other reason for it. Yeah. If you had it in for him, you wouldn't have told him. On the other side of the car is another police officer.
Yes.
So there's two of them. And he goes to reach for his wallet, and I mean, there's like a couple of words, and then 7 shots fired into this man.
Yep.
And it's a horrible situation. The police department, the city, did fire the police officer, but he didn't. There's no criminal penalty. And I feel like we've come into this. We've come into society now where we think people in authority are above the law. We think our police officers are above the law, or our military are above the law, or our government is above the law. And I think no one's above the law.
Yep, I agree.
So I don't know what the man was supposed to have done differently to not get shot. Had he not told them, and they found out, now they're really on edge. And I think you probably hit on several things. We probably need maybe more training for our police officers, maybe better screening. Maybe we do need to pay them a little better to attract a higher caliber. I don't know. I mean, I know some great people right here in my area that I know there's some very good people. I have neighbors who are police officers. People I used to go to church with, great people. I think they're high caliber.
Agreed.
Go ahead. Yeah, did you have another thought there? Or
no, I wanted to see, we got a few viewers out there. I wanted to see if we could get some comments. Maybe, I've seen Adam. Adam is posted. He was joining us from Indiana, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know that we had Paul Cook joined us. If we could get some people to maybe post, agree, disagree, we'd love to sort of hear your opinion, so then we're not just sitting here staring at each other. We're googly-eyeing each other, Curt.
Yeah, I don't really get Google-eyed around you. I'll just be honest with you. So I think some other points to bring up here real quick on this, and then we'll move to another topic if, not much, activity on this one.
Yes.
There's 2 questions I want to ask. Where's the justice for the victim in this case and the family? And number 2, where is the civil rights organization called the NRA? Why are they not standing up for this guy? He was a law-abiding concealed carry permit holder. And he was shot down for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think the NRA one is easy to explain. I think it comes down to, in my opinion, this is average Joe American, is I have a feeling that they are afraid of upsetting some of their, I don't want to say all their fan base. I'm a Second Amendment rights American for sure.
I'm all 10.
And
all 10 amendments.
So I think that ultimately it comes down to they're afraid they're going to offend one of their group. I don't know if that's the only way I could explain it, is that they're afraid they're going to make somebody upset.
Let me press the elephant in the room hot button issue here.
Hey, Karen, let me point out
racial element to this? Yeah, go ahead.
Karen said she posted a comment that just says the NRA is controlled opposition. So
if I understand that right, they're not really an independent organization. Maybe they're government sponsored, kind of in her idea. That's what I'm getting out of that.
Okay.
I don't know. She can comment more maybe and give us some more insight there.
Yeah.
I just find it odd that do you remember the George Zimmer case back in Florida a few years ago when he walked and went after Trayvon Martin and shot him?
Yes.
They came quickly to George Zimmer's defense. You remember that?
Yes.
So what's the difference here? And in this case, I don't hate to say it. I don't know the whole Zimmer case. I remember reading things here and there, but I cannot see where Philando Castile did anything wrong. Nothing. And yet, he's the one dead. The NRA's not standing up for him. And I had, in the past, been a member of the NRA. I'm no longer a member. But I feel like what I feel like's happened is what used to be conservative organizations have become partisan Republican. And I think they're bought off. They're bought off.
Yeah, I want to be careful. I want to be careful saying that their motive is only racism, because I mean that's a tough thing to throw on any group. You know, is it racially motivated? In a sense, I think that anybody would be foolish to not sort of see that that they do want to back off because of the racial side to it. But I don't know if I would.
Circumstantially, anyway.
Yeah, but I definitely don't want to be like, they're racist, and I hate getting. This is one thing. The dangers of the internet and the dangers. We live in a day and age where it's like the mob mentality. It's like, well, the NRA must be full of a bunch of racists, and it's like, no, it's. And here's my other question: maybe why do they have to come out and say anything? And I know you're going to say because they've said it in the past, but maybe they've now changed their policy and they're saying, hey, we're getting in trouble by getting involved in this stuff. Maybe we need to back off. Hey, I did want to post Adam. He ended up saying this. He said, if the police officers felt in danger, then maybe he moved quickly, or the officer thought he saw a firearm. I do think 7 shots is a bit extreme.
Yeah, and I think you made a great point. We don't want to throw everybody under the bus and say, hey, you're a racist, and we want to be careful throwing those terms around. And I'm not saying that. Yeah. I'm just needs to be brought out. And I do feel like they need to make a clearer stand.
Okay.
Also, by the same token, let me say this.
Yeah.
I don't think we should second guess every police officer every time in public, but I do think there should be some independent review boards that are civilian.
Okay.
Let me put it this way. We investigated ourselves and found ourselves innocent is not okay with me.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay? It's about like President Nixon or Bush II or Trump now, lawyers saying, well, the president can't obstruct justice. Well, if the president says it, it's the law. No. That's not the way it is in this country. And I'm going to fight tooth and nail until I have no teeth and have no nails, okay? So let's move on to the next topic real quick, because I thought these 20 minutes would be short. Like, I thought we would run out of stuff, but we're not. And we got several people now viewing, and we appreciate that. What about the yes, I agree. Karen Donahoe says there's some good cops. County sheriffs are more reliable because they're elected. Kristen Straka just joined. We appreciate her out there. I do think local accountability is huge.
Yeah.
We need what would be called community policing. Police officers getting to know people better in their communities, and obviously training. And I still watch that Castile, and I just I can't see the justification for it.
Well, I even think his own department acknowledges that to an extent when
they fired him.
Yeah, they fired him. I mean,
he did something wrong. So, second thing in the news this past week that I thought was pretty significant is the fact that the United States Air Force fighter jet shot down a Syrian fighter jet.
Yes.
A Syrian government fighter jet.
Yes.
Let me say that with some more emphasis. A Syrian government fighter jet whose government is allied with Russia and Iran. A Syrian government fighter jet who's allied with Russia and Iran, and whom we say we're not trying to topple their regime. We're just over there fighting ISIS, but we shot down one of their jets. That is not a good situation. Thoughts there at all?
Oh, well, I had read, when this first came out, I was very curious on what happened. From what I was reading is it wasn't that, they were like, hey, let's go out there and we're going to, again, it's like sometimes I think people think we Americans run around on horses with our 6-shooters and just, and we just want to drop bombs on everybody in the world.
Right.
But I was reading it was because they were coming within firing distance and they were laying down, I don't know if they were laying down fire or if it was just that they were coming within distance of some troops that not our troops, but troops that we were backing there in Syria.
Support over there against ISIS. We were defending and or backing them up against ISIS at the time.
Yeah.
Well, this is the point that I've tried to make over and over and over again. Syria it's an absolute mess. There's about 6 or 7 armies, maybe more, fighting in that country. You cannot pick out a good guy. I don't know that there is a good guy, a good army. Okay. And the bottom line is, if we weren't there, we wouldn't have shot him down. That's the bottom line. And I do not understand why we continue these asinine, ridiculous interfering in other people's governments. Here's a point, okay? You and I both love freedom, I would say. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. We want other people to be free in this world, right?
Yes.
But they have to want it. If they don't want it, not good grammar, but it ain't going to work for them.
Oh, I say ain't all the time, so that's okay.
Yeah, I like saying it.
Adam said, or we had a couple comments get posted. I wanted to bring some of these up. Karen ended up saying ISIS is a CIA, Mossad, Saudi, Black Op.
Yeah,
Adam,
Mossad.
Then Adam
I'll comment
said,
in a second. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead and hit Adam real quick, and then we'll jump on both of them.
Yeah, Adam said, who's to say that he didn't save American lives by doing this?
So let's take Adam's first. He probably did. But again, why are their American lives in danger? If they weren't there, they wouldn't be in danger. See, we're missing a simple thing. Let me give a quick history lesson, okay? Real quick.
Okay.
Started messing in the Middle East right after World War II.
Yes.
Interfering in Iran, interfering in their governments, interfering in Egypt, interfering in Afghanistan, interfering in Iraq, interfering in countries all across the Middle East.
Yeah.
Libya, Tunisia, Pakistan now, Somalia, Yemen, Sudan. And here's the thing, okay? Let me just say it this way.
Okay.
We think our system's the best, okay? I like our system the best. I mean, it's kind of, obviously, I have some problems with it as it's currently being practiced, but I like the ideals that we have.
Yeah.
But you know what? Part of freedom is letting other people in other parts of the world also decide what system they want. It's not our job to force democracy or a Republican form of government on those people.
Okay.
What say you there?
Boy, this is a hard one. Here's where,
but you go right ahead.
Oh no, yeah, you know me. I'll be blunt.
I like it.
I guess where I struggle is there for a while. The libertarians almost convinced me that, hey, let's withdraw, let's not do anything. But then I read a great article that said, and I know I bring this up all the time, and I know you probably get sick of hearing it, but isolationism is what caused World War II. It's the reason that Pearl Harbor happened, because we were so much afraid to get involved. Then we ended up waiting until literally it took a huge toll on us. And someone has pointed out that have we seen another world war because of us, instead of playing defense, we've went on the offense. So I guess my question to you is, how do you say to them that they're wrong when their argument ends up being that overall we have kept our country safer because we went on the offense?
So first of all, I would take issue with, and this could be really controversial and might make a lot of people angry, but so be it. Maybe they'll listen.
Do it.
I don't think our policies caused World War II. I think the European punishment of Germany after World War I caused World War II.
Okay.
If you go back, and all of those countries at that point in time were imperialistic. France, Britain, Germany, Spain to a lesser extent, weren't quite as powerful, but they were all exploiting Africa, they were exploiting Asia, exploiting different parts. That's what they did, okay? And at the end of World War I, the Europeans aggressively punished the Germans for the war. It caused crippling debt. It allowed nationalism, ultranationalism, to rise up, and it was a breeding ground for Nazism and Hitler. And because it's us against the world, and we can take them if we unite. And I think that's really what caused World War II, my own opinion. Now, that's a whole nother, that's a topic probably because, I mean, you're talking, there's scholars who study World War I and World War II, and that's all they study, right?
Yes, yeah.
I don't claim to have that amount of knowledge, okay? But let me answer an easier question, or a more direct question.
Okay.
And I say this all the time. I do think we should fight terrorists, okay?
Yes.
And I do think it's better to take them out away from America.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a good idea to be fighting, for instance, I don't think it's a good idea to be fighting the Taliban in Afghanistan. The Taliban attack us. Al-Qaeda attacked us.
Yes.
Okay? I don't think it's a good idea to try to set up a government in Iraq that basically has three distinct groups of people in that country. The Kurds in the north, the Shias, I believe, are in the south, and the Sunnis in the central. And they don't like each other. And that's a nice way of saying it, okay?
Yes.
On top of that, the Kurds have territory across Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Syria. The Turkish government feels like the Kurds are terrorists. We're allied with the Turks, I mean the Turks on one side, but with the Kurds against ISIS. What's going to happen when we shoot down a Turkish jet, or when we fire on a Turkish group of military? And we get the Turks and the Iranians and the Russians all involved against us. And again, it's not that we can't win these wars. It's, why do you want to stir this hornet's nest? Go ahead. Look, how about targeted strikes? How about targeted drone strikes? How about special operations? We have the best special operations forces in the world. Why not take out the actual known terrorists with as little collateral damage as possible? Does that not make sense?
Well, I do have to contest you on the drone strikes, because I've seen you post many times, and one thing, and I'm big into this, I do not like drone strikes.
Okay.
I do not like, I know that there's a person sitting behind it, but I've said this to my friends before, and this is sort of a little bit of a rabbit trail, but I want a human being in a machine dropping the bomb or sending the missile, not someone sitting back at an Air Force base with a commander sitting behind them going, pull the trigger. I want that human aspect. I like that I like the fact that there was people who dropped the nuclear bomb when they dropped it on Japan.
Why is that?
Because they had to live that way at that last moment. There was always a chance where they could say, you know what, let's not do this. Guys, this is a bad idea. Okay. They would have had to go against the orders that they were given. But to me, I work with computers all day. A computer is going to do exactly what we program it to do. A human always has that unknown factor. And I love that about a human. Somebody has to ultimately take responsibility for those actions, where I feel like with the drone, we just don't have that anymore. And I think because of the drone strikes, because we can get in there, I think we're seeing more civilians getting hurt and injured.
It's a little more, I don't like the word impersonal. That's inhuman, inhumane. Takes away that human element where they could make that last decision, I guess is what you're saying. Maybe prevent unnecessary death. I think Adam Yeager brings the point up I was going to bring up. This is where I don't know if I'm libertarian, pragmatic, or what on this, but this is how I think. He brings up, he says, what about putting the American life in harm's way or in danger? And to me, the drone protects the American. We have the great satellite technology. If we are convinced and know that that is the terrorist, and I think we got to be really, really careful about, and I don't even like using the phrase collateral damage because humans are not collateral damage. Human beings are alive.
Yes.
And so we need to be very, very careful when sending a drone in and make sure that it's actually hitting a military target.
Yes.
Will there sometimes be civilian casualties with a bombing run or a drone strike? Yes, there will be. I hate to say that, but we do need to work to minimize those.
Yep.
And I think the big thing I'm trying to focus on here is we don't have to have massive numbers of troops in the Middle East to fight terrorism. I just don't see it. I don't see why we have to do that.
The other thing I want to point out about, and because he's right, why would we want to put American life in harm's way? My argument, ultimately, though, is with a drone, and I work with computers, that is hackable. And I know people say, well, they haven't been hacked, all this other stuff. Could you imagine if Russia was able to get a hold of one of our drones and fly it in and do mass casualties where it would be a lot harder for them to steal a U.S. plane, fly it without nobody knowing, and then boom, do it. And I know that we would come out and say, oh, someone took over the drone and did those things. That's the reason I like the human touch in the plane. To me, it's like there's somebody who says, whoa, let's not fire this missile. This isn't where I'm supposed to be firing this missile. Where somebody's setting in a building or a ship controlling a plane, they don't have that control. We're putting the control in the controls of technology. And I'm really not a fan of that. So,
okay. Well, I think that may be an area where we disagree a little bit, but that's okay. And what is number one? Let's have civil discourse, right?
Yes.
And I definitely do not want to take these decisions out of the hands of our military. I think we have the finest military in the world, and I think we deserve our support.
Yes.
But we need to make sure that when we do go to war, that it is something that both houses of Congress have authorized. We've never authorized war in Syria. Okay. We've never authorized war in Syria.
Yeah.
Why are we there? We need to debate that. Decide why we're there. In my humble opinion, we shouldn't be there because it's a no-win. I mean, did we win Vietnam? No. Did we win Korea? Well, I guess we had a tie. I don't think that's a win, okay? I don't want Iraq. We've been in Iraq since 2003. We've been in Afghanistan since 2001.
We have been in there a long time.
You realize there are people, if you've never read the book 1984, please read that book. In that book, we're experiencing some of those very same things all on a regular basis in our society. We're being brainwashed or propagandized, which is not an exact word, but one of the statements is we've always been at war with East Asia. We've always been at war with East Asia. We've always been at war with East Asia.
Yeah.
Well, we've always been at war with Afghanistan. Leon Panetta, who worked for Bill Clinton, CIA, and I forget what else, he said that it was going to be at least a 35-year war on terror. Where did he pull that number out of? I think I know where he pulled it out of. Squatty Potty.
Okay? He needs some squatty potty.
I didn't want to say the other word because I try to be a little bit. So, last little in the news segment.
Okay.
Cuba. Do you know what President Trump announced this past week on Cuba?
Yep, we're going to go back to not sanctioning. I can't get the right
pretty
word.
much. Yeah. we're not going to trade with them. We're going to shut down trade with them.
Yes.
So, quick history lesson. Do you know how we got our base, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba? Do you know where we got that?
No.
Spanish-American War.
Okay.
Okay. Do you know that in 1903, I believe that's the correct year, we passed an amendment called the Platt Amendment after Cuba had been liberated from Spain by the United States? And here's what we basically said in that Platt Amendment, that the Platt Amendment gave the United States government the right to intervene militarily in Cuba to protect our interests and Cuba's freedom.
Okay.
So it'd be like Canada, God bless them, they couldn't do this, but let's say they could, saying, you know what, we're going to pass an amendment, and if you guys mess up, we're going to intervene militarily in the United States. Now, how would we feel about that? That another country is going to intervene militarily whenever it feels like it. How would we feel about that?
I think we see Russia.
We wouldn't like it, would we?
No, we wouldn't like it. But I mean,
I wonder if the Cubans like it.
That to me is a hard game to play. I mean, we're assuming what they think.
Do you think people are that much different from one place to the next? Do you think they want to be controlled by an outside military force?
No, but I also don't think they want to be controlled by a dictator who literally is killing people and oppressing them. I mean, you can't tell me that they're not upset with their government as much as many.
Okay. Great point. So let's back up a little more history. Do you know the name of the dictator that Fidel Castro overthrew? If you don't, it's okay. I'm going to throw it out.
No, I don't remember it. I just remember he had to eat chickens in the woods. That's all I remember.
Batista, okay? Now, Batista was somewhat of a capitalist, somewhat of a right-winger.
Yeah.
There were some good things in Cuba prior to Castro. It was kind of a divided country.
Yes.
You had a pretty wealthy urban class and a very poor rural class. There was some racism in the country. There were death squads. It was a police state, I would say.
Yes.
But there were some, maybe in some ways, better. Here's the problem. People didn't like Batista either. Okay? But we as the U.S. said, hey, we're going to side with Batista against Castro. And I think, again, we need to stop to think, okay, number one, is it morally right to intervene? Number two, shouldn't these countries kind of figure these things out on their own? Aren't they adults? Is it really our job to tell them who their government should be? Any thoughts there, Tog?
Man, you've brought some tough ones tonight.
Yes, I did.
This is where I struggle with it. And again, it goes back to this whole isolationism in America.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we know better than anybody else, but don't you think as a country, we have a responsibility to try to help out those less fortunate than us?
So help is one thing, force is another.
So with the Cuban, and I guess I'll just use sanctions since that seemed palatable to both of us.
Yeah.
What I have been reading is people have said that when we dropped and said we're going to let you travel, we're going to start trading again, that sure, that was great for capitalism. Woohoo, capitalism. And I'm for capitalism, don't get me wrong. But the other side of the argument is that what we did is we basically showed all of our cards to the player that we were playing poker with. And that basically we are saying to them, hey, we don't care what you do to your people anymore. We're going to travel over there. We're going to trade with you. And I've heard the argument said that why didn't we negotiate better with that? Why was it just, hey, we're just going to do it. Hey, we love you. And we're putting our arms around this dictator and singing Kumbaya around a fireplace with him when we know that he's doing terrible things to people. and he's oppressing their. I mean, I've heard from people who have went over that country that were Americans that have said that what they viewed there, they came back so much thankful for what we have in our country. When literally people were sitting at a table and he was eating, and he watched the family who made the meal eat almost nothing, and they did it just to say thank you to this American who came over to their country. Mm-hmm. And I just think, you know, those people deserve so much better. And whom much is given to, much is required. And I feel like in our country we're getting greedy. And that's what I don't like about the whole let's not get involved in the world mentality, is I feel like we're saying, hey, let's just hunker down and let's wait for the Lord to return, you know?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't believe that, but you know,
well, I know
I almost feel like that's what we're saying. Hey, let's just ignore the problems of the world. Let's just peace, love, and happiness. And let me see if we have any comments. So
yeah,
Adam said, how embarrassing would it be to have another country come in and tell you how to do things?
Well, and I think so. I've got a couple thoughts, but let me hit one here.
Okay.
I think that freedom dictates that you let people suffer sometimes. If your next door neighbor comes over and needs to borrow $20 to put gas in his car, you might do that one time.
Okay.
If he comes back next week and needs $20 again, you might say, hey man, what's going on? Are you not? Oh no, I spent it, blah, blah, blah. You might do it a second time. But that third time he comes over, you're going to say, look, dude, I can't keep doing this. I mean, you got to step up to the plate. And, well, I can't go to work without, well, you know what? I guess you're going to have to walk, or I'll give you a ride today, but you're going to have to figure this out. And I think that we can't make everything right for everybody in every country in the world. However, let's use a concrete example, two of them.
Okay.
We've had a trade embargo on Cuba for 55 years, and the communists have remained in power the entire time. So that ain't working too well. Okay? We don't have a trade embargo with Vietnam. We actually went to war with that country, and we trade with that country, and they're a good trading partner, and they are gaining freedom and prosperity as we speak. It's very difficult for you to influence somebody that you set up walls against. And I mean, in this case, not a literal wall, but a trade barrier. You're going to be better friends and have more influence if you actually trade and talk to people, and they see your stuff, and they may want your stuff, and they may then want your freedom. And I think that's a much better way of exporting freedom than by force, because I think the opposite of freedom is force. I think they're kind of opposites.
So then what you're saying, if I'm getting you correct, is that you would not even have...
I like that. Go ahead.
So if I'm hearing you correct, then you would even say that you would not have sanctions against North Korea.
North Korea is a little bit different situation. I would like to bring them up on another broadcast when I can do a little bit more background reading. I have a little bit of knowledge there. They have threatened us militarily. They're doing test strikes. It's a little bit different situation.
Yeah, but you had just said that the best way to influence someone is to not hold a gun to their head.
Correct.
But then at the same
time,
you're
whipping a gun out at me, I ain't gonna just stand there. I'm gonna get my bigger gun out and bring my buddies to the fight too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I would think the libertarian side though would say no, that we shouldn't be the bully. We should be the better than them, and we should just try to be
like
nice.
Turn the other cheek or something?
I'm sorry, it cut out. What was it?
You mean like turn the other cheek or something?
Yeah, that they would almost say, "Hey, we should be nice because we should be the better person." ultimately.
So,
That's just where I struggle. I'm not sure where I stand with Cuba.
so there's my shirt. I want everybody to see it. I have my libertarian shirt. Okay. But let me just say this. I really can't speak for the Libertarian Party per se.
Yes.
I can only speak for Curt Nicholson. And I am probably 70, 80% libertarian. That's pretty high. It's way more than I am Republican, way more than I am Democrat.
Yes.
Okay? But there has to be a level of reality to what you do. And the libertarian platform is we don't want to initiate force, but we also want to have the strongest military in the world and use it when necessary. So Cuba has never threatened us militarily. Now, let me back up a second. When the Russians were putting missiles in Cuba and JFK stopped them, that was the right move. Again, it's akin to North Korea, except Cuba's 90 miles away. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't really feel North Korea is a great threat, but I also don't think that they're not going to let us trade with them. So, I am a lot of my philosophy comes from reading the New Testament and the words of Jesus.
Okay.
Jesus basically said, look, if your brother offends you, go talk to him. If he listens, you gained your brother. If he doesn't listen, take some other people with you. If he listens, you've gained your brother. If he doesn't listen, does it again, take the whole congregation. Or in, whatever organization you're with. This could work at home, could work at business, it could work, it can work. If he still won't listen, then he's a heathen and a publican to you. You cast him out. So North Korea is an outcast because they won't listen to any reason whatsoever. Cuba's not the same way in the way I see it. So that's how I see the difference there. Does that make any sense?
It does. I still feel, and I know I think this is just some place where we'll have to agree to disagree. I almost feel like you're saying that it's a cut and dry with Cuba, but then you're saying, well, it's complicated with North Korea. I think it's complicated with both. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm 100% behind.
No, I agree. They're both complicated. What I'm trying to say is this: we should try diplomacy and trade and friendship and those things with everybody. But if they continually reject us, let me put to you this. You're married, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to ask you out, okay? If I won't mention any names here because you're just the other guy. But if the woman you're married to right now had rejected you over and over and over and over again for dates, would there come a point where you would have finally said, hey, I'm moving on?
For sure.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. North Korea they make no gestures of friendship at all. In fact, they actually threaten us. Cuba doesn't do that. So there's a difference in the two countries.
Oh, I definitely think there's a difference in the two countries. I definitely think there's a difference.
We're getting folks joining, by the way, out there too. Leroy, Keith, and Fran are out there too. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Last little thought on this.
Okay.
I don't believe in isolationism. I believe in trading with other nations to develop friendship and cooperation.
Yes.
And that is not isolationism. And I do believe in protecting legitimate American interests and our own homeland. So just keep that clear as well. Yep. So we talked about three different things tonight: Philando Castile, the shoot down of the Syrian jet, and Cuba. We're actually running out of time. We've almost used up the hour.
Oh man!
I would like to skip the life lessons segment if it's okay with you, and go to that last segment.
Yeah, let's do it.
A few minutes, and we'll see if anybody has any comments here. Okay. We kind of decided to call it scholars only, so this is going to be dry and boring and academic and no. We may get a little philosophical here, but I do want to touch on this because I think it touches on American politics and some of the phenomenon I see with people. And that is, so I'm just going to say it this way. What is wrong with fundamentalist thinking?
Okay. This is interesting. I'm wondering where you're going with this.
I could offend some people, probably some friends of mine.
I have a feeling that our audience is going to drop to no, I'm just joking. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
they might,
I want to hear
or
this one.
They might perk up.
Yeah.
So, simply put, when I'm saying fundamentalist, I include religious fundamentalism, political fundamentalism, just fundamentalism in general. Some people use the term reductionism. In other words, where you reduce a philosophy or an idea down to its simplest parts.
Okay.
And the whole is the sum of the parts. I don't know that I agree with that. I think the whole is more complicated than the sum of its parts.
Okay.
I don't think, for instance, a church. Let's just use a church.
Okay.
A church is more, if a church has 100 members, it's more than just 100 people. It's different. There's a dynamic there as a group that you can't just study the 100 individuals and understand the church.
Okay.
It's much more nuanced than that. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
A family may have 3 or 4 people in it, 5, maybe more. And it's a one unit, but if you break it down into just the individuals and study just the individuals, that does not give you a family. You can oversimplify things. In fact, here's how I put it. Simply put, fundamentalism reduces issues down to overly simplistic explanations. It looks for recipes, step-by-step procedures, and sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 major ideas, usually not more than 5. And I'm sorry, but there's usually more than 5 major ideas in any one philosophy or topic. Just like we just talked about Cuba and North Korea. It isn't a 1, 2, 3 and we're done. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes. And I think life and the Bible and religion and issues and politics are far more complex than 1, 2, 3, repeat after me, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we solve this. Okay? I think we have, in our society, Americans like step-by-step. They like recipes. They like formulas. They like, do these 6 things and you'll be rich. Do these 5 things and you'll be happy. Do these, even 10 things and you'll get your dream mate or whatever. Am I right about those kind of things? Do Americans like those?
Oh, yeah, we love our list.
We love our list. We do love our lists. And I think that part of this infatuation with overly simplistic ideas is a fascination with authoritarianism. And I think the conservative movement in America, I totally agree. Fran just made a really good point, and I want to read it, okay?
Yep.
She said, we need fundamentals, but not limited thinking. We build on the fundamentals. So there are fundamental building blocks, of course. But if you can't reduce any, for instance, I'll throw something out here.
Okay.
You and I both believe in God, and we're both New Testament believers, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. The New Testament says God is love.
Yep.
Right? Yep. Is that all?
No, he's much more than that.
Right. And then you have to decide, what is love? And is love ever strong? Is love ever judgmental? Is love ushy-gushy all the time? Is love ice cream every night? Or is love, you got to eat your broccoli tonight? And so you can't just say God is love and leave it at that particular statement. There's more to it than that. This fundamentalist mentality of reducing things down to overly simplistic ideas, it's led to several things. It leads to the idea that it's wrong to question authority. And that's how we get a police state. And that's how we get a government that spies on us all the time. Okay? That's how we get 16-year wars without an end in sight. That's how we get $20 trillion in debt and nobody seems to care. That's how we get health care bills that nobody's seen until today. And the same people who were yelling and screaming about it 8 years ago are now doing the same thing to the other side that they did to them 8 years ago. Okay? Am I making any connections here?
Yeah, I guess the only place. Oh, I'm hearing an echo a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me try this.
Did you have something to say?
Yeah.
And I'm going to give a particular example in a minute, and then we can wrap it up from there. But go right ahead.
I guess what I would say is that ultimately, do we really want to complicate things more than they should be? I think that's where, we love our list, we love step by step, because I don't want anything to be so complicated. A perfect sort of what I think about is Gnosticism, that idea of special knowledge.
Yes.
That you have to have this special knowledge in order to understand this, or you have to have this special knowledge in order to make it to a higher level of existence, or those kind of things. What I like about sort of the idea of fundamentalism is that it puts the jelly on the bottom shelf where everybody can get to it.
Okay.
And while I do think sometimes, yes, we oversimplify things, and it has its problems for sure. I mean, it's not a perfect system whatsoever. Anything man does will never be a perfect system. I do feel
you brought man in there though, because it was created by men.
Yes.
Thank you.
I do feel that ultimately, again, they're putting that jelly on the bottom shelf for everybody to understand. And I have to say, I like that. Do I love sort of some of the other problems that come about from it? No. But I see, to me, it's pros and cons. I see a lot of cons. I don't see any other system that's any better. Let me put it that way.
Okay. So let's do this. Let's talk about Gnosticism for a second.
Okay.
Gnosticism, and there may be folks out there may not be super familiar with that, okay? So basically Gnosticism is a Christian heresy that Paul wrote about in the book of Colossians, and he wrote against it.
Yeah.
Okay. Gnosticism says that only certain people can attain special knowledge. Would you agree that that's a good short definition of it?
Yes.
Okay. So there's special people who can get special knowledge, and only those people can do it.
Yes.
I don't agree with that at all. I think anybody with some brains, okay,
yeah,
who wants to study can learn about a topic.
Yes, I would agree.
Now, let me give an example, and this could stir some people up.
Do
okay?
it. This is what people love.
Example, okay, of where I think fundamentalism has gone off the rails a little bit. All right. So I want to take a topic. I am a pro-life individual.
Yes.
I'm just wading right in, okay? All right? I'm pro-life. If I take that one word, that hyphenated word, pro-life, what does that mean? Just simply put, I am for life.
Yes.
On the side of life. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Specifically, when I say pro-life, I am for human life.
Yes.
Now, let me be honest with you. I have a dog. His name is Butch. Butch is an American Pit Bull Terrier. He's a great dog. Okay, he's 6 months old, and we saw some worms. We got deworm medication. We're going to take care of Butch. We love Butch.
Yeah.
Okay? If Butch died, I'd be sad. I might even cry. I had a dog that we had for about 16 years. His name was Yoshi. He was awesome. When he died, I cried. Okay? But Butch and Yoshi are not as valuable to me as a human being.
Okay.
Okay? I think that animals that we eat should be treated humanely. I'm fine with that. I don't think you should torture them. I don't think they should suffer.
Okay.
Okay? Again, that's not really what I'm talking. I'm talking about pro-human life.
Yes.
Now, when we say, and I've had this discussion on Facebook several times, in this country, fundamentalist thinkers reduce the pro-life argument down to, well, I'm anti-abortion. And that's where they stop.
Okay.
I don't, you follow my train of thought so far?
Yes.
Like, that's it. But shouldn't, if we're pro-life, shouldn't it be a culture of life, a worldview that encompasses life, and all human life should be regarded as sacred and special and endowed with rights? Would that not make sense?
Yeah, but I do want to take a step backwards.
Let's do it.
Go back to, you said fundamentalist would say that you are against abortion.
That's where they would draw the line with the pro-life movement. And the reason I say that, I've seen them do it multiple times.
Yes, but wouldn't you also say that the world, ultimately, when you say I'm pro-life or I'm pro-choice, the only thing the world sees, let's take fundamentalism out of the picture.
Let's do it.
The only thing the world sees is you're either for abortion or against abortion. That's what that saying I'm pro-choice or pro-life.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Whether it means, whatever the dictionary definition is, whether it encompasses all this other stuff, we have to come down to what, as a society, do we see that word meaning?
That's okay, but you've just actually given me more ammunition. Because fundamentalism is not limited to conservatives. It is not limited to religious people.
Yes.
Liberals and progressives are very fundamentalist as well. And I'll give you, they do the exact same thing. They'll say things like, well, if you're not, yeah, great point. Fran says if we truly valued life, we wouldn't even need laws. And that's true. But as John Adams said, if men were angels, we wouldn't need laws and government.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're not all angels. Some of us are fallen angels too. But where I was going with that is the pro-abortion crowd will sometimes say, well, you're anti-woman if you are pro-life. No. See, we set up these false dichotomies, false choices.
Yes.
You don't have to be, look, you don't have to be anti-birth control if you're pro-life. Why would you have to be anti-birth control if you were pro-life?
Well, because The View told me so.
Who told you so?
The View, I forget which person on there said that.
Oh, okay. I got you. Rosie. I don't know who's on there. Yeah. It's not cut and dried. Now, here's really got some people's ire up.
Okay.
You're pro-life. And you're going to march and you're going to protest against abortions and you're going to have signs and all this stuff. And you know what? You have that right. Okay? I think you could do a lot of other things that would promote the cause of life. You could be a lot more productive, but that's an opinion. You have the right to do that. Okay?
Yes.
But here's where I struggle. You're pro-life, but you don't care that thousands of civilians have been killed in the Middle East since 2001 by American drone strikes and bombs. That seems very inconsistent and very hypocritical to me. What thought do you have on that?
I think overall, and let me be harsh to America, not just fundamentalism. I really don't think we care about the rest of the world, and I can prove it.
Yeah.
You could go down to Walmart and pick up a pair of shoes. You can go down to Walmart, pick up a pair of shoes for $5, and nobody stops to think about the child labor that probably went into those shoes. So I don't think it's a fundamentalist problem. I think it's a American, I think about my little circle of influence, and that's it. So I think it really comes down to a heart problem in our country and not just a fundamentalist issue of that's cut and dry. I really think we have a heart issue in this country.
So let me come back to fundamentalism for just a second, and I want to restate this because I don't want it to be misconstrued or misunderstood. I think Americans have a fundamentalist problem.
Okay.
I think Democrats have a fundamentalist problem. I think Republicans have a fundamentalist problem. I think that a lot of Christians have a fundamentalist problem. Really, if you look at the Muslim religion, the greatest number of terrorists come from the fundamentalist arms of it.
Yes, I agree.
I'm not being politically correct. And by the way, I don't want to be misunderstood here, because I've said it multiple times. I am not anti-Muslim. Okay, it's not what I believe, but I think the vast majority of people who are considered Muslim or consider themselves Muslim are peace-loving individuals. They just want to have a home and family and that as well. What I'm getting at is, when you become fanatically fundamentalist on any topic, you become you can become dangerous. And you will not entertain the thought that the other guy might be right. The other side might be right. Wow. Do we see that in society today, Todd?
Completely, yes.
And that we cannot continue to do that. Just because, so I have friends on Facebook that are, I would guess they would be considered pro-choice or pro-abortion.
Yes. I
have conversations with them.
You probably work with some.
What's that?
You probably even work with some.
I do.
Yeah.
I don't know about, yeah, I may. I have. I know that. I have in the past.
Yes.
But here's the point. We don't get all angry with each other. They may disagree, and they may even disagree passionately, but we don't hate each other over it, okay? And we have got to find ways to realize that not all issues are just cut and dried. Cuba's not cut and dried. I think we agreed on that, didn't we?
Yes.
North Korea is probably not cut and dried even.
Completely.
Middle East cut and dried. You know, the building the wall, President Trump. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's a whole other thing. Do we have some issues with immigration that need to be solved? Well, sure we do. But I don't think building a wall is going to stop people from flying a plane across or coming through Canada.
Yeah.
Or traveling in from another country on a visa. Thank you. I mean, you follow what I'm saying here? So
yes.
We cannot overly simplify these things. So kind of wrapped it up there.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts? Because we've gone a little over an hour, but we'll let it go after this. Any other thoughts tonight?
No, I think I think what you're trying to say is we need to get out of our comfort zone a little bit. All of us do, no matter what you
why don't you take that person that you think is a Neanderthal, or you think they're totally a political moron or a religious moron or whatever. I don't know what words to use here. Somebody you think is totally wrong. Why don't you take them out for a meal, cup of coffee, and talk to them and get to know them as a human being?
Yeah.
Why don't you try that? It's hard to hate somebody you have a meal with, you know?
It's true.
And then, I'm not saying you have to agree with them. I think that'd be silly. We were going to talk about integrity. If you believe something, you should stick with it until you're proven wrong. You should stick with what you believe.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean you have to be hateful and nasty about it. It doesn't mean we can't work together and come to some kinds of solutions together. So I guess we'll be back on next week.
Yes,
8
sir.
o'clock Eastern. And maybe we'll have other guy. Maybe we'll have the same other guy. Maybe we'll have some interviews. We're working on getting some folks in for some interviews, but we hope everybody enjoyed what we talked about. And the more comments you give us, the more we know what you're looking for. We enjoy doing it, but we want to make sure that we're being a help and an encouragement to you out there. So, Tog, you want to say anything else to the folks?
Just everybody have a good weekend and stay away from Florida.
And that's probably a good idea. And like I said, have a good weekend. Got a thumbs up from Adam. Everybody take care, and we'll see you next week at 8 o'clock Eastern. Curt and the other guy. Have a great night.
See ya.
Bye-bye.